The Blue Hens of Delaware, Pat Devlin, former Penn State quarterback, saw Joe Flacco do it, make the jump to first-round pick. He's going to try to do it. He's going to get eligibility first year since he moves from FBS to FCS. He'll be their starting quarterback. Casey Keeler is their coach in his 8th season. They were 4-8 last year. 4 offensive returning starters, 3 returning offensive linemen. Philip Thornton, most experience, with 44 carries last year as their running back.
Well, they got to find someone to replace. They got to find a running back. 3.5 yards a carry last season as a team. That's not going to win you some games. Also, look for the offense to struggle because they struggled last year. Offense really was a problem last year for them, and they might struggle again this year as they try to move some pieces around to get some consistency and get some production out of all those players. But from top to bottom, QB, running back, wide receiver, O-line, they're going to struggle. So this is a rebuilding year again on offense in Delaware.
6 returning starters on defense. All-American free safety Charles Graves had 5 picks last year. 3rd-team All-League defensive end Matt Marcarella moves to middle linebacker, from DN to middle linebacker. Interesting switch.
Well, you look at that defense. The defense is going to have to keep them in a lot of games this year because the offense is going to struggle that bad. Like you mentioned, the ball hog back there, Grant, free safety, gets his hands on a lot of balls. They're moving some pieces around on linebacker to try to get some production out that group. But overall, I think the defense is going to have to step up even more so, play above they're able to play, because they're going to have to compensate for that offense.
And now for Towson, Rob Ambrose, their coach, Blair Peterson trying to take over for Sean Schaefer, running back Matt Castor, and wide receiver Hakeem Moore seem to be their playmakers.
That's the only 2 playmakers they have on that team. As they get more acclimated to the system, a veteran offensive line should help ease the transition with the new head coach. Blair Peterson, he's going to make the full-time transition to starter. So you want to see how he's going to produce, but he does have 2 good playmakers in Castor and Hakeem Moore, but that's about it for Towson on offense.
Over 35 points per game led up on defense last season. They bring in help. They bring in Boston College transfer defensive lineman Brady Smith to help ease the cause.
Well, you look at 35 points a game, 430 yards of offense given up, 232 rushing yards a game, 5.6 yards a carry, and opposing quarterbacks completed 62% of their passes. You know what that means? Terrible defense. So which is why Townsend was picked to finish last season, and which is why they might finish last again this season, because they have to get that defense right. There was a lot of blowouts last season for Townsend. They have to improve. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season down there for the Tigers. But Ollie Thomas, 9 pass breakups, is the lone bright spot on that defense.
Transition time down there in Maryland for
Yeah.
Towson. And now for our CAA preseason predictions. Offensive Player of the Year. I'm going to go to New Hampshire. I'm going to go with the running back, Chad Cackert. This guy had over 6 yards per carry. He's going to break out this season. I like him to win the Offensive Player of the Year. Who are you taking?
I'm going to go with Vladimir Dukasi, tackle with UMass. I think he's already an All-American. He's a really good player. He's going to increase his status this season by being a dynamite playmaker for the Minutemen and also be one of the top tackles in this upcoming draft. He is a really good player.
I'm going to stay in UMass and take Jeremy Miles, the safety, as my Defensive Player of the Year.
That's a good pick. I like Jeremy Miles. He's a really good athlete. But I'm going to go with Adrian Tracy, defensive end, William & Mary. 10 sacks last season. I think he's going to blow it out this year again, between 10 to 15 sacks as well. He's an awesome playmaker coming off the end. A guy that can play a little bit of outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme.
And now with our picks, North Division preseason pick, who are you taking?
I'm going to go with UMass. I think UMass has the defense to get it together and enough offense to make sure that they have the consistency at quarterback, which is more I can say for the other 2 teams that were predicted to go atop the division. But I like UMass. Solid offense, solid offensive line, defense, a lot of good players on defense. So I think UMass is going to take the North Division.
Look out for the Minutemen, but I'm a man who loves offense, and let's take New Hampshire right here. Let's stay with the Wildcats. I like New Hampshire. And for my South Division winner, you got to go with defending national champion, Richmond Spiders.
Right. Richmond has, I'm going to go with Richmond as well, the best offensive line in the conference and the number 1 defense in the conference. 2 recipes for success. Those guys will repeat as champions.
That's our Colonial Athletic Association South Division preview For more FCS previews, visit footballgameplan.com/smallcolleges.